Robert Bobby Comfort, the Pierre Hotel Heist. Elegance, silence, and the blueprint. New York City, January 2nd, 1972. The Pierre, a Fifth Avenue palace where diamonds sleep behind steel and the night staff moves on whispering shoes. Somewhere between the 39th floor and a velvet rope, a crew steps out of an elevator, dressed like money and working like monks. No ski masks, no wild shots. A phone is unplugged. A corridor is folded into quiet. Hours later, the vault sanctuary of safe deposit boxes, New Year's jewels, negotiables. The hush-hush wealth of a city has become a room of breathless air. Headlines will call it the most elegant heist of an era. Banks will call it a lesson. The city will call it a story it never forgot. Behind the plan stood a man most people never saw and nearly no one understood. He wasn't a movie villain or a nightclub king. He was a planner, Robert Bobby Comfort, credited in many accounts as the architect of the Pierre Hotel job. He believed in timing over swagger, in courtesy over chaos, in a rule that sounds like a prayer: plan your work and work your plan. No blazing guns, no crashing cars, just moving shadows under stars. To understand the night the Pierre went silent, start where noise was a teacher. Robert Comfort's story doesn't begin on Fifth Avenue. It begins upstate, Rochester, the Rust Belt, the working class grid, where you learn machine rhythms and the difference between a shortcut and a mistake. Accounts describe him as precise by nature and patient by choice. He wasn't the loudest in any room. He was the one who took measure of doors, of people, of risk. By the late 1960s, he had drifted toward a trade that newspapers romanticize and courts do not. High-end burglary, jewel jobs, the kind of theft that requires eyes, angles, and a crew that can follow instruction the way a string quartet follows a conductor. New York was a hungry, glittering classroom. Park Avenue doormen, diamond districts at dawn, hotels that trusted quiet more than cameras. Comfort's circle formed the way real circles do. Family ties, hometown loyalties, specialists with steady hands and steady nerves. If you were on his crew, the first tool was discipline. The second was time. He practiced a belief that would define him. Violence is noise. Noise is heat. And heat is the enemy of a plan. Where furnaces hummed and paychecks thinned, he learned to lose and then to win. Every method is born in friction. Before the legend, the lessons. Struggles and failures, the tuition of a craft. No one starts at elegant. Early on, there were misreads, a guard rotation guessed wrong, a schedule that slid, a partner who didn't belong in a room where patience is oxygen. Arrests followed. Time got taught in gray spaces where the day never fully arrives. Inside those walls, the difference between thrill and trade crystallized. Comfort skewed toward trade. He wasn't interested in improvisation masquerading as courage. He built rules instead. No drugs around the work. No guns unless the plan collapsed, which it shouldn't, and no freelancing. If you're in the room, you're in the role. If the plan doesn't protect civilians, there is no plan. He learned that crews break at their weakest link. An ego that needs attention, a mouth that needs noise, a hand that shakes. He learned to replace talent with fit. And he learned the thing the streets rarely teach loudly enough. Walking away is a kind of winning. He paid in days and paid in pride. To learn which gambles should be tried. Then came a moment, a target, and a doctrine, deployed with a calm that felt like fate. The turning point. New Year's, Fifth Avenue, in a map made of minutes. Some opportunities don't blink twice. New Year's weekend is one, a holiday of jewels. For a certain class of New Yorker, a hotel safe deposit box isn't luxury, it's ritual. Put the stones away before you dance. Sleep without a safe on your nightstand. Retrieve the wealth after the champagne has gone flat. According to multiple accounts, most notably the memoir-style retellings around the Pierre Hotel affair, Comfort and his associates understood that ritual. They studied the terrain, the hours, the staffing. This isn't the place for technical diagrams or techniques. We won't provide them. What matters is the method. Reconnaissance that doesn't leave footprints. Rehearsal until movement becomes memory. And a plan tuned to human rhythms. Who's tired at 3? Who is surprised at 4? How a door feels when it's looked at but not seen. The crew was compact and specialized. They traveled like guests instead of suspects, blended with the furniture instead of the rumor mill, and treated time as both their weapon and their alibi. The target wasn't a teller's drawer, it was the sanctuary. A room of boxes that hold lives. Birth bracelets, watches with inscriptions. Quiet, generational wealth. He mapped the night by breath and bend, and wrote a start that felt like end. When morning came, New York learned a new scale for silence. The score, elegance at dawn. At first light, staff opened rooms meant to be opened, and a room that was not. The safe deposit vault told a story without a narrator. Boxes disturbed, contents gone, a kind of clean absence that felt like cold air. No employees were physically harmed. No shots were fired. The method embarrassed money because it showed how human even our impregnable systems can be. Estimates rocketed into headlines. Millions in gems, cash. Negotiables. The kind of haul that recalibrates a decade. Some sources would call it the largest jewel heist in U.S. history at that time. Others would argue the numbers, as experts always do. What no one argued was the audacity. A surgical job in a 5-star temple. Time for a few precious days. The plan's aftercare, dispersal, low profile, controlled fences, held. The city buzzed. The Pierre's marble kept shining. The tabloids had their romance. Then the serious work began, not for the crew, but for the people paid to hate romance. A vault unspoke what night had planned. By noon, the hunt had left its stand. Manhattan didn't just have cabaret and couture. It had institutions built for long chases. The reckoning, the task force and the long tail. Big cases draw big circles. FBI, NYPD, prosecutors who collect details like rare coins. They talk quietly, compare patiently, and stitch together the unnoticed. A rental car's odometer, a motel bill paid in cash, a tool mark that looks too familiar in too many places. Heists are not only about 2 hours. They're about the 200 little choices before and after. Investigators eat those choices for breakfast. Arrests followed in waves. Different men, different jurisdictions, some downstate, some upstate. Indictments stacked counts. Courtrooms replaced hotels as staging grounds. Press coverage put faces to rumors and nicknames to methods. Sentences reflected both the scale and the scar. The public trust dash that happens when wealth supposed to be secure is found wanting. For comfort, the reckoning was a collision of two plans, his and the state's. He always believed patience wins. The government proved it believed the same thing. He measured minutes, line by line. The law measured years and took its time. With fame comes fog. With legend, disputes. This story has both. Controversies and criticisms, credit, myth, and the bill. Ask 3 veterans of the Pierre caper who masterminded it, and you may hear 4 answers. The most detailed public account, the Pierre Hotel affair, told with the cooperation of participant Nick the Cat Sacco, presents comfort as the principal strategist alongside a polished crew. Other retellings reweigh the roles, elevate or diminish certain names, and argue over how the loot moved after the job. The fog is natural. Reputations are currency. There's another debate that refuses to die. The rumor that politically sensitive cash was among the haul. Journalists have chased it across decades with more smoke than proof. It endures because it fits the mood of the era. The country's paranoia turned into plot. Treat it as rumor, unless you can. What isn't contested. Victims were real. Families opened boxes and found heirlooms gone. Banks tightened procedures because trust is the product, not the marble. And a weird cultural glamour clung to the word heist, as if elegant planning could launder wrongdoing into folklore. We love the dance and miss the bruise. The story picks the parts it uses. If you listen for a credo in all the noise, a few lines attributed to Comfort and his school still ring. Words, wars, and the code he carried. Robert Bobby Comfort did not swarm microphones. Most of his voice arrives secondhand. Memoir paraphrases, co-conspirator recollections, interviews years after the fact. Treat each line as attributed, not scripture, and hear the ethos beneath. Plan your work and work your plan. Context, a mantra multiple associates recount, a craftsman's rule that rejects improvisation as recklessness. If anyone gets hurt, the job is wrong. Context, a creed attributed to him as part of a nonviolent doctrine. Whether verbatim or not, the rule guided selection and execution. One mistake is all it takes. Context, a post-arrest fatalism that haunted many who lived by perfection. The state needs one thread, and you can't control every thread forever. His fights weren't alley wars. They were ideological. Patience versus impulse. Precision versus spectacle. Courtesy versus cruelty. Against him was a system that says ends don't cleanse means, and that steals back time with patience. He fought with clocks and quiet codes. The law replied with longer roads. What did it change? More than the tally suggests. Impact, legacy, and the last page. The Pierre Heist reset more than headlines. Hotels rethought their safe deposit operations. The staffing, the logging, the alarm redundancies, the cameras before cameras were everywhere. Banks learned, in the most expensive way possible, that security isn't a thick door. It's a system of human behaviors. For law enforcement, the case became curriculum, interagency sharing, forensic patience, the power of tiny consistencies across scenes. Investigators teach one another that most perfect crimes are only perfect until someone pulls a thread. The Pierre gave them a master class in thread pulling. For culture, it minted a template. Quiet men in good suits, polite words, clean exits. Books, documentaries, and dramatizations kept the memory lit. The best versions resist the romance. As for Comfort himself, he served time, aged out of the fevered edge, and, according to widely reported accounts, was murdered in the mid-1980s. His life ending with the kind of abruptness he avoided in his work. Details vary by source. The consensus is that his death drew vocal headlines and a long echo of Pierre in every obituary line. Public reaction followed the split we've traced all along. Grim respect for the craft, harsh judgment for the crime, and a lingering fascination with a man who proved. Picture the Pierre one more time. Mirrors catching chandeliers, a doorman's nod, air that smells like money and polish. Then picture what money can't buy. The sense that you can lie down and your secrets will be there when you wake. On a winter morning in 1972, New York learned how fragile that feeling is. Picture a planner at a small table years later, older hands flattening a napkin into a map that no one will ever see again. He talks softly about timing and quiet, and how the best plans require the smallest movements. Then he says the line that should outlive the myth, not as a boast, but as a warning. One mistake is all it takes.